Hello, everyone. We are live with the AHDB Talking Leaders October. Mark, take us away. Tell us where we are. Tell us who we are with. I'm so excited about this one because of not only this conversation, but what this very impressive lady is going to be doing in the near future. Take us away, Mark.
No, we're live just outside of Bedford on a beautiful sunny day, and we're with Anna Mosley here, who is the founder of A-Team Academy. AT Academy. And we're really pleased that we're going to be working with her later on in the year. So we want to get to know her a bit better.
Excellent. And just talk to us about AHDB, Talking Leaders, for those that don't know, please.
So Talking Leaders is a series where we bring people from outside of the industry into the industry and just learn from their experiences and what they do, and hopefully farmers can take a few points from it.
Yeah, and Anna, as we were saying when you were very kindly giving us tea, as we were getting set up with your delightful dog Henry, where I think these guys have been it's my word of the year, mercurial, is that sometimes our sector can be accused of being quite myopic, siloed in our thinking, and where these guys are so good is that they find inspirational individuals, game changers, leaders that we can all learn from. So I always feel that the more people like yourself that we can get on through this sort of, help me about this process of osmosis, so that we can learn from you, and then we can bring that into our businesses and make a difference in the business, make a difference to all the people that everyone's pointing, make a difference to UK agriculture.
Definitely. It's just to take those few little points and see how they relevantly fitted in the business.
Get people thinking bigger.
Yeah.
Massively.
So
something I'm passionate about.
So we picked you up. Who are you? Take us away.
Hi everyone. So I'm Anna Mosley, and I'm a high performance coach, and I am passionate about bridging the gap between mental fitness and high performance. There are very few, if any, companies out there doing that. And what I do is get leaders and their teams mentally fit so that they can unlock their full performance potential. Growth mindset is my passion. You were talking about getting people and your followers thinking bigger, and the farming community thinking even bigger. That's what absolutely I do. I challenge ordinary or average thinking to get people thinking outside the box to deliver better results for themselves, for their teams, and for their businesses across multiple industries.
Okay, and background. You're a proven individual, but I bet you've had some knocks and bruises along the way.
Yes, I have.
What is?
Get ready for this.
What's your background?
So I started my career on the L'Oreal grad scheme. I was in the corporate world for roughly 15 years, various sales, marketing roles, global leadership roles. Yeah. It was an amazing journey, amazing roller coaster journey, and I was always a high achiever. At school, I was a high achiever. I was head girl at school, and I progressed very quickly in my career. And the reason I share that is because there was this real dark side behind being a high achiever. And this is really what's taken me to what I am doing now. So do you want to hear a bit about that background, that story, and what happened? Because you asked about challenges. So behind this facade of being a high achiever, working my backside off to be the best, be the top of the leaderboard, I never wanted to fail. I was so embarrassed to make a mistake. In hindsight, I had no boundaries. I was inauthentic because I was a people pleaser. I didn't want to let anyone down. And yes, I was delivering really quite impressive results, but ironically, I was never performing my best because in the background, I was breaking down. And back in 2017, after I had my second child, so I've got two gorgeous girls, 9 and 7, Millie and Daisy. And when the second one was a baby, and I'd just gone back into this full-time leadership role, working full-time, global travel, baby at home, as I say, quite a high profile role, I really, really struggled. Yeah. And I remember a really critical, brutal voice that was in my head, and it was severe perfectionism. I talk a lot about perfectionism, but on a continuum, I was top end of the scale. And this voice in my head was saying things like, you're a crap mum, you're a bad leader, you'll never be good enough, you're forgetful, you're not a good enough wife. I just felt like I was failing on all fronts. Now, this is the dark side of being a high achiever. If you're a high achiever, you're more in demand, you expect yourself to be the best at everything, and it was unrealistic for me to expect myself to achieve 110% across all areas. Now, that led to a breakdown. I won't go into the detail, but you can imagine it was pretty bad. But that was the turning point for me. And my biggest learning in life is that 80% is enough. When I learned to deepen my foundations, to build my confidence back up, because ironically, I actually had low self-esteem despite this facade and successful front. When I learned to deepen those foundations and to be able to take more control of my mindset, my performance rocketed because I had clarity of thought again. And that's why my company is called 80 Growth Academy, because 80% for me, the 80% rule is the winner, is the secret to driving peak performance.
Okay. And that journey you went through, did you have assistance?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I don't think you can I don't think you can fix yourself to the degree you need to achieve peak performance without the right help.
Yeah.
I overcame limiting beliefs. I got myself a fantastic coach, as I say, built my self-esteem, and I learned lots of strategies for how to manage my mindset effectively to get better results. And then from that pivotal moment, I left the corporate world. And then I became a coach and a trainer myself, and I actually honed in on the mental health world, delivering a mental health program at the time. Became really passionate about it because I thought, I had so many friends say to me, I can't believe that you have had a breakdown. You know, you're always smiling and bubbly and successful, climbing the career ladder. But in the background, as I say, there was this dark side. And I wanted to help other people like me boss the balancing act, not just of children and work, but just the balancing act of life. You know, we have so many cups we want to fill.
And there's so much we can learn from Anna, isn't there, Mark? That we were just talking about off camera, that within UK farming sector, it can be very lonely. I was throwing the stat around that 1/3 of businesses don't have any form of succession planning, and so there can't be another sector like farming where you have this personal life and business life is morphed as one.
That is incredibly challenging.
Everything from social to financial. And I don't want to go into the darker sides of it, but we've got one of the highest suicide rates in industry in the UK. And is it, Mark, because we're not talking? You look at what Anna went through, and she had that realization that if it's okay to say, Anna, you needed help. You sourced professional help, and look where you are now, having gone from that negative to create this big positive, huge positive.
Yeah,
I think you're right. That talking and that opening up is something that us as Brits, we're not very good at. And I'm thinking there's 2 points that you talk about mental fitness, which I love that term, and you're only the second person to ever refer to it, because fitness is up and down. You can't be at that top trajectory. Think about, I'm a big rugby fan, Johnny Wilkinson.
Yeah.
The sooner the day that he stopped playing rugby was like his life. It was like how I go and kick goals 400 times a day, every day, until I've kicked 100.
Yeah.
You can't be at that level continuously. You've got to have ups and downs. And some of my experiences, which thankfully I never got to the burnout stage, but when I taught, I was the only lecturer that year to be graded outstanding consecutively.
Wow.
And it's like, Mark, that's brilliant, pat on the back. And it's like, I'm now in a really lonely place, because the expectation from all of you lot as a teaching team is like, Mark, you're going to get the third. And it's like,
oh, the pressure, right?
Massive
the pressure
amounts
of being the best.
Yeah.
I resonate with that.
And the 80%, the grade 2, the good, that's where I wanted to be, because there was always room for improvement. There was always an aspiration, but it was still above average.
Gosh, there's so much to unpick from what you just said.
And I just give you, I think, a crazy example. Mark loves dairy. And within the last 10, 15 years, there's been a revolution in dairy that used to all be done by machines, but by hand. The dairy worker would have to put the clusters on the cow to milk them. And then robots came along, helped me, automatic cluster release, ACRs. And I remember a company that was trying to sell them into Ireland was constantly meeting this problem, that they would say to Mr. Farmer, Miss Farmer, Mrs. Farmer, that we could release, you're going to have another 20 hours of freedom in a week to do whatever you want.
Wow.
And the retort was, what am I going to do? Because all they've ever done is milk cows. So it's the Johnny Wilkinson scenario, and a bit like the succession issue that we see within farming. That 67 or that 77-year-old farmer, what am I going to do? I know no other life. I'm going to throw you under the bus on this one. What would you do? You're going to speak. Obviously, we're going to find out later to a number of farmers, and we've sort of got to we've got to change the mentality a little bit to talk, but also to let go.
Absolutely. So let's talk about vulnerability, because many people, whether you're in a business, whether you're a farmer, whether you're a parent, many people in this world struggle to be vulnerable. That, by the way, was a massive problem for me and a reason for my breakdown. I wasn't sharing that I was struggling because I had this facade. I need to be okay. I need to be performative. Performative actually is another great word, right? I was always performing. How inauthentic is that? So it's my first challenge is people need to realize that vulnerability is a superpower. It is not a weakness. And to generalize, there are many men especially that struggle with this. And actually, if you can be more vulnerable and more open about your feelings and your struggles, it absolutely will drive connection with others. So connection is the opposite of loneliness. And what would they do if they suddenly had all this time on their hands in that example you just shared? Well, that is really overwhelming. Humans don't like change. Even if it's really good change, they don't like change. So I would go back to a suggestion of just making one tiny tweak. What's the one little thing I could try now I've got this time on my hand? One tiny thing. Maybe I'm going to have a coffee in a coffee shop once a week. I don't know. It could be tiny. It should be tiny because then it's possible.
I'm smiling because I just thought of a great one. In my rugby club that I'm involved with, they have this thing called walking rugby. For those
I love about that.
For those over 50, 60. We were talking earlier. Mark was telling you about our colleague Isaac and the amazing time he's had with Nuffield, where he's traveled the world. You could have the Nuffield, or help me, Mark. Oh God, wrong words. But this. Because they love farming, so they can actually use that opportunity to go and explore other farms.
Maintain that connection and still do something very similar to what we always do.
Or learning. You know, if we feel stuck, it's a really awful feeling, isn't it? When you feel stuck and you feel demotivated, and we all do need growth. So could there be opportunity for one of those tweaks to be, I'm going to go and learn something new, or learn from other farmers whilst I've got the time? Because it could lead to, financial reward if they did that, right?
I had an uncle who got an apprenticeship with the Merchant Navy and always felt bad that he never had a degree. When he retired from Perkins, who are big engine manufacturers in Peterborough, he went off and got 3 degrees.
Oh my
so there's it's all there to be had, and even more so. So it comes down to this question, Mark, about mindset. So how do we change? How do we change a mindset, especially when it's been set for 40
it's
harvests?
Flipping hard is the answer, unless you become conscious of it. So let's just address that your mindset, you take it everywhere. You take it onto the farm, you take it into the bedroom, you're going to take it into old age. You take it literally everywhere. So why on earth are we not working on it more so? And that's the answer to that, is because the general public don't realise that behind every single barrier, poor result, bad habit is mindset. This is the incentive to work on it, because absolutely can make you more money, drive your relationships, make them more enriched. It's worth focusing on it. And going back to mental fitness, that term that I know you said you loved, obviously I like it too a lot, right? It's integral to all the work I do. This term mental fitness implies it is something you can keep working on. Like you flex a muscle in the gym, we need to be working on our mental fitness. But did you know, guys, that 90% of your thoughts today are the same as yesterday, roughly? 90%. I don't reckon all your listeners will know that, because I didn't know that until I studied. 90% of your thoughts are the same as yesterday. So going back to those farmers that find themselves stuck in a rut of, I've got this time, I don't know what to do with it. They're kind of more comfortable staying in the comfort zone, as are pretty much most people. It's about the need to think bigger and differently, because we're all stuck in autopilot. But it serves us well to raise our self-awareness of where that autopilot is not serving us well. Do I keep snapping with my partner? Do I keep getting out of bed late? Probably not for a farmer, right? Bad example. But what habit can I start to consciously challenge? That's working on your mental fitness in a way. And
it's a bit like Apple. When they started putting tracking on phones, they realised that 99% of people do the same thing every day.
That surprised me.
Scary,
isn't it?
It is. Everyone wants change, but no one wants to be changed.
And that's why change needs to be tiny.
Because it's got to be achievable. If it's you set that mammoth goal, you're never going to.
So guys, there's that jingoistic thing of change 1% a day, and then by the end of the year, you will have changed, can't do maths, 365%.
No, I love that. And the other analogy I like that one is, if you have a pilot, he or she might change their direction by 1 degree, but over a period of time, that plane is landing in a different destination. That is the benefit of small tweaks, because you're going to drive greater change over time. And interestingly, if you want me to go into a little bit about how the mind works, the amygdala part of your brain is I'm not going to go too deep. I like to make complicated topics simple, by the way. But the amygdala part of your brain, it will send you into fight or flight if the change is too big. And this is the beauty of a tiny shift. You don't trigger that, and your brain doesn't even really notice. But over 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, a year, there is a considerable difference in whatever it is you've been focusing on. Okay, that pilot, he's been told by someone, by ground control, to move 1 degree. If it's okay to pull on yourself again, when you went through your life experiences, you met up with certain individuals who showed you, with all the people dialing in, if they want to change that 1 degree, does that direction need to come from themselves, or do they need to go and talk to someone? Do they need to collaborate with someone, or do they need to read? Do they need to listen to podcasts? Firstly, there's always options to get external help, right? Not everyone can afford that, or they would argue they don't have the time for it. I think there's no better project to work on than yourself. So I invest thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds, tens of thousands actually, on myself every year, and I'm a coach because I passionately live by this growth mindset. I really do. I have the best mentors you can imagine, best coaches, because there ain't no finish line. There's always a chance to get better. But they've got to. It all starts with self-awareness. To answer that question, is even if they don't go and see a coach, it starts with, what does my autopilot look like for me? What are my bad habits? And where there's a bad habit, maybe they're eating too much, not exercising, there will be a belief behind that habit. There will be, by the way, beliefs aren't fact. When we were born and we came out of our mothers, we had no beliefs whatsoever, right? Zero. So that's something I could talk to you for hours about. But beliefs we learn or we create as we grow, and then they are actually what are driving our autopilot. Beliefs drive thoughts, thoughts drive our feelings and our emotions, and then that drives our repetitive behavior. They've got to start calling out, where's my autopilot not serving me? And all they need to do that is notice when they feel crap. Notice when you feel jealous or angry or irritable, and then think, what belief might be driving that? Is it a belief I'm not good enough? Is it a belief that I'll never meet the right partner? It could be anything. Yeah. And Anna, what about things that it can't change? Because this is what you'll find. Weather, been shocking, can't change it. We're making no money. How can I have a positive mindset? How can I have a positive mindset when everything is conspiring against me? Everything's conspiring against. How can I? Right. First thing, that's a really good question. And the first thing I want to say is I really do empathise with that challenge of weather for farmers. It's the biggest curveball out there, right? You have probably heard the phrase "control the controllables" and focus on controlling the controllables. From my breadth of experience working in mental health, now I work more so with high performance and mental fitness, right? But working with mental health or mental fitness, I can tell you now that when you are creating stress and anxiety, you are obsessing over something you can't change. I put my mortgage on it. So we've got to learn that is not serving us. It's a waste of energy. It's very difficult, right? It's challenging, but you have got a choice. I repeat, you've got a choice in how you respond to every external factor, whether that is the weather or someone's behavior that is unhelpful. The skill, and it does take work and time to hone this in, but the skill is to be able to take that step back and think, I can't change that thing. What's the most helpful response I can have to it? And that for farmers is crucial. And it goes back to that 1% element. That's example. I've got a very good friend who is farming up in Derbyshire, third generation. They couldn't make the farm work because of all the weather conditions. And this lady swung away from farming, did up the buildings, got a loan from the bank, and has now got something in the region of 16 office buildings, all being let out, Airbnb, and she's never been happier. And she wished she'd done it previously, but she had the guilt of the farm. The family had been farming for 3 years, and she was giving that up to go down a route that the rest of the family weren't happy with. But she did, and she's blissfully happy now because the income is there. But it's not just about the income. She can just see that the farm is now future-proofed the future. But so she didn't go 1 degree; she went 60 degrees. Wow, but it was very brave. We've got to acknowledge as well before we move on that with any change, even if it's small, I mean, it'd be less so, but just will bring some form of discomfort. And for me, my favourite line is discomfort equals growth. I embrace discomfort because I know that with change, or with even in times of adversity, which farmers will absolutely be able to relate to, through that discomfort will be learnings.
Yeah.
Will be some sort of growth, even from trauma for some people.
Yeah.
I love the phrase post-traumatic growth. Without going into that stuff in any detail, we can grow and learn from these difficult times. That's the right attitude and mindset to have.
Yeah, there's always a positive from a negative, but
there's a gift. There's a gift.
Yeah.
There's a gift in everything. It just doesn't feel like it sometimes at the time, right?
Yeah. There's some actually great points here. Some of this change can be quite overwhelming. What kind of tips and points would you suggest to create that practical culture for continuous learning and pushing yourself into these out of your comfort zone and things like that? What would you recommend to our listeners and farmers?
Okay, well, the first thing I would say is just choose one area of your life you want to focus on first. Is it your fitness? Is it your leadership in your team? Is it your nutrition? Just pick one thing and then just think, what is the one tiny tweak I want to focus on today? I would make it as simple as that. What's going to make it easier with driving any change is charging your own battery first and making sure you're looking after your mental fitness, because the whole thing, the premise of what I teach companies, leaders, teams is if you can get yourself in the best headspace, if you can charge your own battery or pour into your own cup, so to speak, then you've got more to pour into every other cup. So if you can look after yourself, practice self-care. And I know people would have heard about self-care, but I really want to link it today to performance. You know, there's some companies I talk to like, this will make you more money. You looking after yourself better will make the company more money, save the company more money. And I seriously stand firmly by that. There's a performance link to mental fitness that I am passionate about shouting about, because it's not just this fluffy thing. Mindset matters. So answering your question, look after yourself, practice self-care. That means getting the right sleep, nutrition, exercise, etc. Being kind to yourself, noticing your small wins is a big one that humans don't do. That is going to help charge your battery, so to speak, enabling you to be more conscious of making those small changes. It starts with mental fitness.
Yeah. And you need to be the leader, that needs to be the energy, that whether it's a team, whether it's a family around you, you need to be able to give that energy off.
Well, whoever that leader is, whether it's a leader of a farm or a parent, they need to model the behaviour that they want their children to pick up on, their teams to pick up on. The problem is people don't often realise the importance of that. And the most important trait I find in any leader is the ability to be vulnerable. Because if your team can recognise that, they're going to feel more comfortable around you. It encourages more continuous feedback, greater conversation, and all of that translates to better results.
There's a couple of people that Mark and I have interacted with. One was a farmer at a very successful AgriLeader forum earlier in the year, and he adopted this, and he's now got an all singing, all dancing team in his own words. But the problem he's got is that they're all coming to him with their problems, and the families are coming to him with the problems. Right. We've also got a YouTuber that we know who finds it so difficult sometimes because of what he's stating about mental health, about how we all have to protect. And he has so many people coming to him direct because he's like their vicar now.
That's interesting.
They're coming to him going, Brian, Dick, Fred, Harry, I've got this problem with my family. You said on your video, how can you help me? And he can't help because there's just too many. And likewise, the farmer from the AgriLeader, you could just feel he was a bit overwhelmed because he sort of dreaded when the phone would ring in the evening, because it could be his main foreman's wife's cousin to say, I'm a bit upset.
That's exhausting.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because do you know what the first skill is, or the first concept that I hone in on when I'm working with any business across any industry? The first step to creating a winning mindset for better results is personal responsibility. So there's an accountability issue there, and there's an over-dependency on that leader you just mentioned, or that person you just mentioned. And whoever that leader is needs to be really careful that they don't feed that over-dependency, or they don't mollycoddle. And this could apply to a parent too, right? So with all my training, I hone in on that first, helping people be aware that there ain't no one coming to save you. The trick here is to get you feeling as powerful as you can so that you're able to make change in your life to drive a better result. that means that you don't create the stress and anxiety so much. Because when we feel powerful, when we feel like we're helping ourselves, so it's a skill. There's an opportunity here to upskill people. We don't want them depending too much on the
train the trainer.
So without going too deeply into it, if I was running a program in a business, for example, I would be obviously, as I say, training them on becoming more accountable. But to the leader, I'd be saying delegate more. Get them to come to you with solution-based problems. Don't just come with a problem, come with a solution as well. And that really encourages that autonomy and that growth within their team. But it's going to create future leaders. You can't create future leaders without encouraging that accountability, can you?
Well done. I just remembered Chris Evans in his first autobiography. I think it's written 5. But he said when he took over Virgin Radio, he said, "I'm going to have an open door policy." And he said it was the worst thing they could do. Everyone was coming in. But if he'd actually adopted what you stated about delegate, not abdicate. Just if you have a problem, try and sort it out yourself. And if you can't, then come to me. But or what's that other one, Mark? If you have a problem, come to me with 3 solutions. And let's discuss.
I talk about the 1-3-1. So I say to your teams, they have to come to you with the 1-3-1. 1 problem. 3 possible solutions that they've thought through, and 1 recommendation, and that transforms the dynamic in teams. It progresses the team members quicker.
That's so clever, isn't it?
And it's how simple is that? It really works.
Really simple.
But unfortunately, what I do see a lot in leadership is there are a lot of dominant leaders.
Yes, and there is in agriculture, and it
might be that there's not that what I would say cognitive diversity, hearing everyone's point of view. Encouraging that autonomy that's really going to make them feel motivated and deliver growth for that individual. We don't see that so much with the dominant leader, and that's an issue. And it's a skill, isn't it? So all of our people data will be going to health and safety lectures, lessons, tutorials, but very few people actually go to coaching sessions, do they? So especially it's all 1% again, isn't it? How can I better myself for my personal fulfillment, but also for my business? I will go off and get coached on people management to learn some of the things, because we're all guilty of it. How have you got a problem today, Brian? How can I help you? And then their problem becomes your problem, but your solution come up with the solutions and the recommendations. It's simple, right? But it's a game. It's a game changer, isn't it? I think to simplify all this, what every individual listening in here needs to try and do, if you haven't already got one of these, is develop a growth mindset. The problem is humans are fixed. Going back to the 90% thing, right? We are fixed. We are comfortable in our comfort zones, hence the phrase. And by the way, I would call the comfort zone the warm sleep. That's what I call it. I call it that because it's warm, because it's familiar and it's comfortable, but it's sleep because you ain't going to grow in it. So the first thing everyone needs to consider, if you want to drive change, make more money, relate more to your team, is you've got to adopt a growth mindset. You've got to start thinking bigger. You've got to start challenging the norm.
And that's the difficult bit, because it's
the difficult bit, and you have to be vulnerable to do it. And that's where vulnerability is
very generalised, and not to all of our agricultural listeners, but they're generationally habitual.
Of course.
So the longer it goes on, the more difficult it is to put green socks on rather than red socks that day.
Do you know what I find that in business? I find that in businesses as well. I find when I'm coaching CEOs of well-known brands and companies, sometimes they can be the most fixed because they're the biggest earners. They've climbed the ladder and they think their way works, which it has absolutely to an extent, but we should never stop. There's always more to learn. There's always ways we can tweak.
But I also find those individuals sometimes the most lonely and commercially lonely, because they are in that position, but they can't. We've said this before, that sometimes if you want to know what's going on a farm or in a business, go speak to the guy on the tractor. Go speak to the guy on the forklift truck. They know everything. Whilst that chap up
They're
there,
detached.
What if you could have it more as one team? It would be hugely beneficial. That mindset there, I feel like I'm countering you, but you see where I'm going for this one. I remember meeting they described themselves as a high growth couple, and it's almost that they'd got 40 different books off Amazon as to how they're going to better themselves. And so they had this thing on their fridge door that from New Year's Eve every morning they would look at what they were going to achieve that day, and then they were going to have a summary at the end of the week. and at the end of the month we got divorced after 6 months.
Oh no, that didn't work.
Because it's got to be fun as well, isn't it?
Of course it has.
You can't have your life driven by an Excel spreadsheet as to I got 9.8% growth today. It is about doing good, enjoying it, enjoying other people, helping other people, and having that growth mindset.
100%. And like fulfillment is so important, isn't it? You're not going to do your best work if you're demotivated and feeling crap. And I like to see life as a pie. This will sound really simplistic, but there's a different segment for different aspects of your life. Your family, my children, nutrition, fitness, whatever. This is where I love the 80% rule, because for me it's giving very roughly 80%. When I'm in one of these segments, I'm given roughly 80%, so I've still got energy left for the rest. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Of course, at times I have to tune it up to 100. Let's be realistic. Certainly do on a farm, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But you've got to recognise that isn't forever, and you've got to mindfully keep pouring back into those other segments or those other cups as soon as you can to get the balance which will drive the fulfillment.
And that's why I like the term fitness, whether mental fit, performance, fitness, whatever. If you look at an Olympic athlete, they're not. Usain Bolt can't run the 100 meters at under 9 point whatever seconds continuously, because that's impossible.
Of course.
So you, for the point where you need to harvest, you work at 100%.
Exactly.
But areas where you can drop off and dip off and recharge, that's where you need to go up and down.
The most successful people in the world, like you say, athletes, they rest.
Yeah.
I never rested. That's why I had a breakdown. I never flipping rested. I was at 110%, like I said, all the time, foot to the pedal. That is the danger of perfectionism.
Yeah.
I feared letting go and not being perfect, and it nearly killed me.
Yeah. So I've described agriculture as perhaps slightly unsophisticated. Perhaps we're in a bit of a myopic and in a siloed thinking. I'm probably being overcritical. You've worked across a number of other sectors. Which sector do you think's got this?
None.
Wow, I wasn't expecting that.
I cannot tell you how much. Yeah, none. Honestly.
But the beauty industry is beautiful. It's got amazing branding, amazing people. It's a global industry. Everyone wants it. And you're telling me that hasn't done it?
Absolutely. I've never met an industry, and I've worked across many tech, hair and beauty, engineering, all sorts. No, no one is getting it. No. And this is why 80 is really paving the way, because there are no training companies bridging the gap between mental fitness and high performance. I'm like here going, guys, you're missing a trick. This is the missing piece of the puzzle. Don't just get someone in and training you specifically just on leadership, because it ain't going to stick if they're not in the right headspace to absorb it. Can I just talk to you about the high performance zone, because I think that's going to be useful for listeners.
No.
So I'm going to do it anyway. Okay. Right. So I want you to imagine that we all have this stressometer in life, right? Like a revometer in a car. It goes from 0 to 10. The higher the number, the greater your level of stress. And on a daily basis, we'll say to ourselves, most humans, oh, the weather's really peeing me off today, or my partner's driving me mad. And we'll blame external factors for why we're stressed, right? This is part of the problem. When we blame, we feel powerless, and that's an issue. It makes us more stressed and feeling trapped. Anyway, going back to high performance, the higher the number on this stressometer, the poorer you're going to perform. You can't make decisions effectively. You're more emotional. You can't think straight. You're believing the stories in your head. Now, my aim is to get as many people in business and otherwise, sport, farmers, operating in the high performance zone, managing to regulate their stressometer so they can get to the lower end, because that is where leaders, teams, farmers, parents work smart. They are more productive. They have the headspace to adopt a growth mindset. They have the headspace to tailor their approach and their communication to their team, to think bigger about how being present with their kids, whatever it might be. So that's what we need. And they're going back to the missing gap in business. They don't understand the correlation between high stress and underperformance. And I go in and show them, let's get your team operating down here and just watch how the growth mindset grows, the connection grows, the results improve.
And I guess you can't do that by just coming in for 1 hour and 10 minutes. This is an ongoing relationship to be had.
It is, but it is a journey. It's definitely life's a journey, right? But this is a journey, creating high mental fitness, and there is no end. But it's much more simple than people realise. Okay, but you're convinced, the question to both of you, that those that invest in themselves do better. Mark, you go first.
Definitely. because it's that self-awareness piece, and it's continually striving to improve, but like you say, not to be at the optimum piece and level.
And I'm smiling because I remember listening to a podcast earlier this week by someone saying that if FDs, no offense to FDs or accountants, if FDs ran businesses, we wouldn't have any businesses because they're so risk averse. And actually, coaching, there's a cost, but it's a bit like marketing. If you invest in a suck of money for marketing, you want to see 3-4 times return from that. I'm guessing that if you can get your team high performing, the small costs of coaching, of deploying a business like yours.
Absolutely. And do you know what you've got to do to make the progress? And it's all about progress, not perfection, right? As you can imagine. You've got to make mistakes. You've got to fail forward.
Just say that again, slowly.
You've got to make mistakes and you have got to fail forward. Failure is just a moment in time. It is part of the progress. I love it that at Intuit, which is a company that I've got QuickBooks, and that's an Intuit sub brand. And at Intuit, they ask their employees regularly, and I mean like daily, have you made enough mistakes today? And I flipping love that. Yeah. But the old Anna would have hated making a mistake. It's embarrassing. It's the wrong thing. But how can you learn? How can you get to the end result more quickly? Well, you have to fail forward and make the mistakes to pivot and learn quickly to get there.
Yeah. And would you say in 2024, people are so averse? I look at my I've got a 16-year-old son, and he is absolutely petrified of making a mistake or showing up wrong. And it's like, and the other day he made he's doing his GCSEs at the moment, and they had an extra revision class, which was compulsory after school on a Friday. Not great, but he forgot to go. He generally just forgot and got home and, oh my God, left it on the WhatsApp. Dad, just send an email. You've just forgotten.
Yeah, we all forget stuff.
You won't forget again.
Yeah.
Just own it, open up to it, tell your teacher that. But he was petrified because he had made a real boo-boo. It's like, that's life. You need to do that. And I think too many people are scared of making that mistake and keeping the norm and not pushing themselves out of their comfort zone to make change.
And you know what? This links into fixed mindset. As a nation, and it isn't just our nation, but as a nation, we are still too end result focused. It is all, and in schools they're still. I know that the growth mindset's coming in gently, mental health is coming in a little bit more, which is really good, but it's not enough. They are still too focused, especially private schools, on end results. And growth mindset is about praising progress. And linking back to something you said earlier, Mark, about you 2 years in a row getting outstanding and the pressure you felt of that. If I was your mate by your side at the time, I would have been praising your perseverance, your effort, your learnings through that process, which would have actually fueled you and made you feel more comfortable. The thing is, when everyone says, oh, he's the best at X maths, science, do you know that actually affects people's performance? There's studies that prove that affects their future performance because they feel such pressure or think that they've reached the pinnacle already. One of those two reasons is the reason why they don't actually put in enough effort to keep improving. So we should be praising characteristics of our kids or our team members or people on the farm over the end result. It will drive better results.
And here it comes racing them from the corner. What's your view on social media in all of this?
Right, don't get me started. Right, I'm going to go off. No, I'm not. I'll keep to the point. Perfectionism is rife as a result of social media and that end result focus. Kids and adults these days are not just comparing themselves to the kids in the playgrounds. They are comparing themselves to billions of flipping people around the world who usually are portraying a fake, perfect picture, which just is not real. And the social pressures that come from that. By the way, the lower someone's self-esteem is, the higher their social anxiety, the more they'll care about what other people think. And we don't teach that in schools. We don't teach children to fuel their self-esteem from within, to praise themselves effectively. They're too dependent on the end result to feel good. Too dependent on losing the weight, looking good, getting chatted up, the validation.
Fitting in, being like the rest.
And all of that comes into fixed mindset, interestingly.
Okay.
And that's a struggle as a cultural thing in England, and not just England.
Okay.
So real challenge.
So just on a farming perspective, just to pull this thread of social media one more time. If a farmer or a supplier has got a high performing team, do you think it's the right thing to do to promote that on social media? or
oh, that's a good question.
Or is that creating issues that we're here, look at us, and then Monday comes along and something happens and it's not. Should we?
That's a really good question. What do I think about that? I absolutely think that they should be sharing their success stories, right, and sharing their small wins. It's very motivating for the team, but in the framework of this being a journey. So why don't they share their greatest learning or how their bounce back? You know, their resilience.
Yeah.
The two greatest traits for me in any business are resilience and agility.
Yeah.
And they both feed into growth mindset a lot. You can see why, right? The link.
Yeah. Well, that's a real positive, because I think agriculture and farming is probably one of the most resilient people you will ever.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
And this all feels. I keep on using this phrase this whole year now. Human and authentic. The more human, authentic.
Yes.
One of Mark's. Let's say colleagues who does a lot of YouTube work, she portrays the highs of agriculture, but also the lows, dead lambs, problems with sheep, awful weather, and it comes across on such a genuine basis, rather than I was going to pick up the beauty industry. Hey, agriculture's not like you have the highs and the lows.
Yeah, but you take your biggest learnings from the hard times. Your greatest, most positive learnings are always from the hard times.
Yeah.
And you can learn some really unhelpful stuff in the good times, like complacency.
Yeah.
So I think it's about sharing the journey of farm life, the ups and the downs, the small wins, but not just in the context of outcome. The context of character traits, how the team came together, how we bounced back.
I think that's really.
And I love your authenticity, please.
Understanding people. Just if you have got 3 or 4 people in the business, how do they want to be communicated with? What are their drivers? What are their motivations? Just understanding a bit like that is going to help you get the best out of people. And
go back full circle. Just remembering about the mature farmers who perhaps are looking for something else to do. Perhaps they don't want to travel. I've met a number who love presenting to schools. They'll go to the local area. And they'll take in a bag of wheat, and they'll just talk about farming.
That's brilliant.
And the kids are so receptive. There's a standard quote we always come out with, or I come out with: 6 out of 10 kids in the UK don't know where fruit and veg comes from. So if you've got a really experienced farmer who's willing to travel 20, 30 miles and meet a bunch of kids, all those schools are desperately looking for people like that. And you can see what that can come to the farm. It's lambing time.
Wonderful.
Come to the farm,
showing kids what else is out there other than the very few professions that are not often referenced from schools. It's good.
So just pulling on that question again about I'm really surprised that I just thought you were going to say the beauty industry's got it sorted.
No one's got it licked.
But with farming, with agriculture, we might actually have an advantage. So let's be positive that actually we might be there or thereabouts. What would your advice be to everyone listening in as to how they can turn the dial, how they can make themselves a super business, super managers, super teams, and do good? All farmers are doing good in the UK. So it's a bit of an open-ended question. and you find out more when we'll get to this conference that you're involved with. But what would you do? What would you think? What would you say?
Well, I'm a big fan of asking yourself questions, because you can coach yourself, by the way, right? You mentioned how resilient farmers are. I observe that myself. My perception is the same. However, I wonder how vulnerable farmers are and how mentally fit they really are. Do they feel connected? Do they feel lonely? Are they open with their feelings? Some, I can imagine, won't be. So there will always be things that can make them more resilient. And I like to talk about extraordinary resilience. I work a lot in recruitment as well, right? And you can't be a recruiter in a way without being resilient. You know how much rejection they get on a daily basis. It's brutal. And if they don't deliver the numbers, they're out. So you have to be resilient. So I like the concept of extraordinary resilience. And I think in farming, it's very difficult. You should never generalize. But I imagine that the vulnerability piece might be an interesting one. So going back to the questions, am I stepping out of my comfort zone in my role as a leader on a farm enough? Could I be more open with my team? Could I share a mistake I've made and what I've learned from it? And maybe go down that route. That's just going to guide them a bit more into that growth mindset than the fixed, because it's going to be so easy for them to stay in the reoccurring self-fulfilling prophecy of the rut.
Humor. Does humor come into a lot of this?
Well, it's important to me. Is it important to you?
Okay, can I give you an example? I was at an awards dinner in London, and there was about 700 people there. And because of the work I do with Mark and other people, I had a number of people coming up to me saying, "Oh, Max, I love the video work that you do. Where are you next?" And so a few people said that. And then I was having a conversation with a very large software grower, and this lady was looking at me in this crowded foyer. And I could see she wanted to talk to me. So I parked the software grower and I went up to her and said, "Hi, I'm Max. How can I help you?" Expecting her to ask me about videos and stuff. And she goes, "Who are you?" And she wanted to talk to the software grower. So it's always a thing. Never ever get above your station. But humour in the conversation, is that a British thing? Do you think that also helps? There's a lot of humour that goes on within farming, within agriculture.
Oh, for me, it goes back to authenticity. If humour is important to you and it's part of your personality, you've got to be authentic and integrate it into conversation. Not everyone's different. Let's acknowledge that everyone's different, right? I think authenticity is a great word, and it ties into what your values. Are you someone who values humour? Are you someone who values connection? I mean, I do. And are you living a life that is aligned to those values? Because that also links to levels of fulfilment, right? But you've got to be authentic. But someone who's invulnerable, someone who has a fixed mindset, someone who is scared of failure is very likely to be authentic with those around them. And that was the old me.
Okay. Got
me to a certain degree. It's to good places on the surface, but in the background, it was not good.
Yeah.
It really was not good. And now I just feel like I will hold my hands up when I make a mistake. You know, literally in the household, I will announce when I make mistakes to my children, because I do not want them growing up thinking that mummy's perfect.
Yeah.
I want them to realise that it's normal and part of life to learn from something. They can't just play a piano piece perfectly first time. And don't get me wrong, they'll throw the book sometimes. "Oh, I can't do it." And I'm like, "But that's good. It means you're learning."
Yeah.
And we can take the same approach on the farm. Could we try something differently? Yeah. Even when things are working really well, there's still a chance to break through the barrier to get to the extraordinary.
Yeah. That's that 1%. And just go back to farmer humour. There's these dreadful typhoons, tornadoes in America last week, and I heard a journalist on Times Radio went to a farmstead, and the farmer's house had been obliterated. All there was a concrete pad, and he was stood there on his front steps, and the lady with the microphone said, "How are you feeling, sir?" And he said, "Come on in." No house. come on in. Wipe your feet. And I thought, well, that's so typical farmer humour.
Do you know why I like that? Because going back to control the controllables, it's done. The past is in the past, right? You can't control the past. You've got to let go, and you've got to respond to the most helpful way possible.
Hello,
if that's you, extreme example.
Juicens, I need some wood. Just move forward.
Yeah. Let's just influence what we can.
Yeah. So this has been really, really brilliant discussion. What would be your, and we covered humans with vulnerability, we've covered the 80% rule. What would be your one bit of advice, one key nugget to our listeners, to our farming industry, to actually embrace a growth mindset, to think bigger, to make that starting point of actively trying to do something differently?
Okay, I'm going to hone in on two things. Make sure you are looking after yourself and recognise that mental fitness is the foundation to high performance. Charge your own battery. Don't be selfless, doing everything for everyone else. Put your own oxygen mask on first, knowing it's going to help you show up better for your team on the farm, your family, whoever. That's integral. And the second part, I want to loop back to tune into your autopilot. What does that 90% look like for you? What are the bad habits? Because without that self-awareness to start with, you can't make the change. And then I guess if I can throw in three, what's the one small thing? What's the one small tweak?
One little tweak?
Yeah.
It's almost like you. It feels like you've got a big conference coming up, Mark, and it feels like you need a speaker who can really pump up the tires, motivate everyone about this whole subject. Mark, have you got anyone in mind?
Funny you should say that, Alex. So we're really excited. The AgriLeader Forum 2025. Being hosted by NatWest in Bishopsgate in London.
Oh, just say that again.
AgriLeader Forum 2025.
Great venue.
Wow. 28th and 29th of January.
Amazing venue.
Hosted by NatWest in Bishopsgate, London.
Okay.
And Anna's our headline speaker.
Yeah, fantastic. Excellent.
It's going to be good, guys. It's going to be brilliant. I'll bring the energy, I promise.
So you've worked with a huge amount of people, and you've referenced a few farmers. Have you done much with UK agriculture previously?
No, I haven't ever. I've worked with some other great brands and industries, LinkedIn, L'Oreal, Boots, you name it. Lots of big names that they'd all know, but I've never worked in this industrial sector before. But I'm intrigued.
But I'm guessing you've got a love of the countryside.
I do.
We didn't say it at the beginning. We're filming in Anna's lovely house in Bedfordshire, and there's wellies outside. It's a really good side.
I am obsessed with the countryside. I'm a big Cotswolds fan. I'll tell you that much. I had a great uncle who did have an arable farm. My dad wanted to become a farmer and unfortunately didn't, and he's always regretted it. Okay. And I am an absolute nature buff. Been doing my research on farming. Yeah. Never going to proclaim to be any kind of expert in the sector, but honestly, the skills, the insights that I believe I can bring you guys on that day are going to be really useful. I'll be making complicated topics simple. There'll be some amazing takeaways that are going to help you both on an individual level and in terms of how you can better lead and inspire and unlock the potential of your team. So be there or be square is all I'll say.
Fantastic. Is there anything that you want to learn from? You're quite intrigued at learning from us.
I know. Have I asked you enough questions? As soon as these guys got to my house to film this today, I was asking, I don't know, I've probably asked you about 20 questions about the farming industry. I'm a very curious person. That ties into the growth mindset that I have passionately adopted and practice on a daily basis. I just really look forward to networking with everyone at that event. And I probably will be asking even more questions because I want to understand the challenges and the obstacles.
And if it was invited, would you like to come and visit some farms?
I'd love to visit some farms.
That'd be great, everyone.
Make that happen, definitely.
Yes, release.
That'd be really good. But what a great discussion we've had, Max.
Yep.
It's been fun, hasn't it?
And it's been a great, if it's the right word to use, teaser for you for this speaker for being this keynote speaker for the forum. As we said at the beginning, I think it is inspired that Mark, Isaac, the rest of the colleagues at AHDB are bringing people like you into the sector so we can learn from you. I don't think any of this is rocket science, but we do, Mark, sometimes just need to be shown this.
It's refreshing, isn't it?
We need to be dragged to the trough to be shown
the dots.
Yeah, and the changes are there to be made, but we do need. I love that pilot analogy. Just go 1 degree. And you're our control tower. You're just telling us how to go that 1 degree, make that difference.
And the value of those attending that conference in January to take that time out to reflect is so powerful. Because you can't really challenge your autopilot, the way your farm's running, the way you're managing your team, whatever, unless you stop and take yourself out of it to think bigger. And that's the whole notion of the event, isn't it?
And that's one of our key drivers and outcomes is just get off the farm and take yourself out of the business.
Because you will take 10 steps forward.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I love what you're doing, guys. It's brilliant.
So to wrap up, what's your favourite colour of tractor?
Well, I've got to say red, haven't I?
Oh,
is that contrary? Is it green?
No,
green. My favourite actual colour is green. My wellies are green, but no, I feel like I've got to say red tractor.
Okay, and it's now sponsored by John Deere. She's got £500,000 combine arriving tomorrow.
That's my childhood memories coming back.
Fantastic. And it's been an absolute pleasure. We've learned about vulnerability. We've learned about pushing out your comfort zone. We've talked about mental fitness. We've talked about the 80% rule and focusing on that rather than trying to be at full bore all the time.
Yeah.
Fantastic. If you are interested, I'll stick the link below the video for the AgriLeader Forum 2025, the 28th and 29th of January, Bishopsgate, London, kindly hosted by NatWest, and you can get to meet Anna up personally. She'll be there for the entire conference. So
I really look forward to it. It's going to be brilliant.
And we'd just like to thank Henry, Anna's dog. Oh, he's asleep on the corner.
Very well.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
See you next time. Thank you.